My name is Ed Nardi, Chair of the Natural Resources Commission, and I am calling this public meeting to order at 7 p.m. Tonight's NRC meeting will be a hybrid in-person and Zoom meeting. We have a microphone set up at the commission table, and plans will be projected through the TV monitor. If you are presenting via Zoom, please turn on your audio and microphone when it is time for you to speak. Following the presentation by the petitioner and questions from the commission, members of the public will have the opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment. Please identify yourself with name and address for the record. You can also raise your hand from your phone by dialing *9 and use *6 to unmute. All video screens will be turned off with the exception of the commissioners, Delia, and the current petitioner. Once the commission has acted on an application, the petitioner is free to leave the meeting. In the event of any technical difficulties, all matters on the agenda that have not been heard will automatically be continued to the November 2nd NRC meeting. At this time, I would ask the commissioners to introduce themselves. Bill?
Bill Cremeza.
And Nick.
Nick Pappas.
Thank you, guys. We're too short this evening, so we have a quorum, though. All right. Let's see. I think we have one set of meeting minutes to approve, the June 15th. I read them through. I didn't have any particular comments. Bill?
No, I looked at them too. They seem fine to me.
Nick? Oh, you're on mute.
I had one, what I thought was a possible correction. It's a minor one, but I don't know. Karen, did you get it? Was it corrected?
Not yet, but because I have a question for you, so but I'll touch base with you tomorrow.
Okay. So I think, Bill, if you
I move that we accept the minutes as amended for the meeting of June 15th.
Second.
Thank you, Nick. And the vote, Bill?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
And I am an aye as well. All right. Let's see. Commissioners' comments. I don't think I have any in particular this evening. Bill?
Nope.
Nick? Okay. No particular commission comments. So Delia, director's update.
My update is behind you. You'll see there's about 600 plants that are going to be planted to augment the pollinator plantings at Haywood Meadow. This effort is going to go on the Walden Street side to do clumped pollinator plantings. Will, our land manager, he removed 2 Norway maples, and we've got a volunteer effort starting tomorrow and a contractor that's going out and removing a ton of invasives. And the committee, Haywood Meadow Stewardship Committee, has sort of felt that this is a neglected part of Haywood Meadow. It doesn't really feel like Haywood Meadow proper, so they would like some attention paid to that. So that's our effort. If anybody's interested, October 19th. Which is next Wednesday, is when we'll do that planting in the morning. So just let me know if that's something you're interested in joining. And then the second thing, at the last meeting, you had asked me to prepare a letter in regards to the CPC application for the trail improvements that were proposed at the Hillcrest Conservation Land. So I did prepare a draft, and if that's acceptable.
Look great from my vantage point.
Same.
Nick, you good?
Yes. It's fine.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I have that printed, and you can sign that tonight, and I'll send it to the CPC liaison tomorrow.
All right. Thank you. All right. So I think we have one continuance this evening. Bill, you'd like to take that on?
Sure. Let's see here. I move that we continue without discussion. DEP file to November 2nd. DEP file 1371611 at 141 Comerford Road.
Second.
Thank you, Nick. And the vote, Bill?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
And I am an aye as well. All right. Thank you, guys. All right. Continuances to be heard this evening. Notice of intent, 75 White Avenue, DEP file 137-1616. I see John.
Yes.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Do you want to just give us a quick update on some of those steps you took to bring it to hopefully a conclusion this evening.
Yeah, at the last meeting, a request was made to provide some clarification on the drawings.
Mhm.
One of them was to highlight the setbacks better than they were.
Right.
And add a rounding. I sprayed that out.
You want to go in the other room.
I submitted.
But I think better than always, and then
We also,
I don't want
It's gonna be,
we also changed the plantings,
Mm-hmm.
so they're native species. So it's on there. I have to ask a question though of you guys, if it's okay.
Sure.
If Dorcas doesn't like one of my plantings, would you mind changing it?
Which one don't you like?
I had to get the drawing in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fine. That's totally
Yeah.
fine.
It'll be a native species. We'll figure that out.
Yeah, as long as you let me know what that is prior to or at the
Perfect.
pre-construction meeting, that's fine.
And it won't be till.
Next year sometime.
anyway.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fine.
And I think that was the crux of it.
I think so, and these are just notations here. I think that the retaining wall will require a building permit because of its
Yeah,
height.
Well, you're right,
And again, that'll just be a standard condition, if you will,
right, yeah.
on the approval. And I think you provided a couple of stockpile locations as well.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We
Yeah.
added the additional,
Yep.
they added the additional stockpile.
So it seems like you kind of hit everything
Yeah.
on the nail head. So,
Mhm.
so with that, so John, you good with
Good, yeah.
on an update? Okay. Is there any public comment in regarding this application for 75 White Ave?
Let's see.
Not seeing any? Okay, I think with that, we do have a order conditions prepared this evening.
Thank you.
Bill, would you like to?
Yeah, so I move that we close the hearing and issue an order of conditions with findings A, B, and C. This is, and standard conditions 1 through 20 and special conditions 21 through 53. This is for DEP file 1371616, 75 White Avenue.
Second,
Thank you, Nick, and we'll take the vote,
Aye.
Bill. Nick,
aye.
and I am an aye as well. Good luck with the project.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. How you doing?
I'm Bill. And I assume one of those conditions is notifying you before we start, right?
There will be a pre-construction site visit, so
Okay.
once the erosion controls are installed,
Perfect.
I'll come out and review it with the contractor, just to make
Okay.
sure that we're on the same
Okay.
page with.
Oh, and we made that change too. We added the silt fence. at the
Yeah.
bottom.
Yeah, that's right.
One more of that.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Yeah, bye-bye.
All right. Next night, the next project is 48Y Fitchburg Turnpike, NOI file number 137-1612. And who'll be leading off for the project this evening?
Hi, my name is Chris Clausen. I live at 2134 Sevilla Way, Naples, Florida. I am the applicant. My entity, Quarry North Road LLC, is the applicant. I represent them. With me tonight is my attorney, Bill Henchy, and my civil engineer, Matt Leidner. And we received a couple of questions or comments from Delia just a couple hours ago, and I put together a quick PowerPoint to address those. If I could share my screen, I'd like to share them with the board.
Oh, yep, I'm sorry. Let me, I think I have to allow that.
Sure, that sounds like good to have that update.
Thank you.
Yes, that-
So Deal, you share the 5 points here, if you will. Okay.
The slideshow.
Hmm.
Okay, let's see here. Okay, so we received 5 comments just a little bit ago, and I just wanted to address each one of them. The first question was tree removal. And I wrote a little paragraph here, but let me just describe to you what happened. Our original filing for a tree removal plan had 58 trees identified, and our landscape architect included trees that were outside of the buffer zone. So when we discovered that, we had her redo the tree removal plan, and the number of trees within the buffer zone that are going to be removed is actually 34. While this work was going on, I live in Naples, and we got hit with Hurricane Ian, and it was not a fun time. I lost power, so I couldn't really follow up on that particular exhibit. And that was transmitted. The correct exhibit was transmitted to NRC. However, the cover page was drafted prior to me reviewing it, and I never got a chance to adjust the numbers from 58 down to 34. The documents that you have on file and that's been filed with you are correct at 34 trees being removed. And the mitigation plan is also correct with an identical number of 1-for-1 being replaced. I apologize for that error. It's actually an error that is, I don't think it really affects anything. This plan here has been transmitted. This identifies where the trees within the buffer zone are located. They're identified here in a table. This small table here, I can zoom in for you. Identifies that there are 34 trees within the outer portion of the buffer zone that will be removed, and they'll be replaced on a 1-for-1 basis. This next plan is actually an overlay of where the red dots are the trees that are to be removed, and the other trees are identified that will be replaced, so you can see exactly where we will be replacing them. This table identifies the type of tree that we are replacing them with. Actually, this table does right here. These are the trees that are being removed. So that has been filed. It's in your possession. And then the final plan that has been transmitted to you is the overall landscape plan, which includes the mitigation trees that we're planting, as well as all the other trees, which are in shrubs, which are in the hundreds for this parcel. And if I could just remind the commission that this piece was a piece that was a gravel mine. Almost the majority of it was, as you saw when you were out there on your site visit, it's a mess, and we're restoring the entire property. So that had to do with the tree removal. The next questions are listed here. One was, there was a question on the conservation restriction. There's a small area in the south eastern portion that's identified as future WWTP easement. And Delia asked that we explain what that is all about. And when that easement we did put an easement in that location, and that was at the direction of Mass DEP, because there's a regulation that within 50 feet of a wastewater treatment plant, you can't have any encroachments in that area. So that easement is in place, and that's what that is for. That wastewater treatment plant is nearing completion, I would say within the next 60 days. Your CR overlaps that, and they both have similar restrictions where nothing can be done.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, so I guess I don't know where that wastewater treatment plant is proposed, and I don't know what that. It's an oddly shaped easement. I don't know what we don't have that information, but all we see is a note on the plan. So if there's language, I mean, the CR obviously is going to prohibit any and all development.
Yeah, that's my question. There's an underlying CR. Why do you need an easement of encroaching into the CR a little bit that says we've got to stay back from it? I don't understand that.
Well,
Do you mind if I jump in, Chris?
yeah, sure. Go ahead, Bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the board. Again, William Henchy, I'm the attorney for the applicant. That easement is required by the DEP regulations that require that nothing can be constructed within 50 feet of a wastewater treatment plant. And it was placed on the plans long before this application and long before there was any contemplation of a conservation restriction. So it simply is a note at the present time. It's a note on the plan of an easement that we had planned to place in the future to limit that particular area to no structures whatsoever. So it's on all of the plans of record, but in terms of the conservation restriction, we'll simply place the conservation restriction over it The CR obviously will prohibit any construction or any structures. So it's a distinction without a difference. It was on there.
Right. I think the only question that I have about that, Bill, is if there's a note on the plan that speaks to a future wastewater treatment plant easement, and then there's a CR, that language is not drafted
Yes.
for it, and then there's a CR that we're looking to place on it, that, which one overrules the other. So,
Right. So
Well,
can we see, I would like to see the language of the easement.
Yeah.
Right? So everything is dovetailing, if you will.
and we can
Right,
special
and-
condition that, so that the easement is subject to NRC approval.
Yeah.
Can I just jump in? There is no easement at the present time. That's a note
Understood.
on the
We got
plans.
that.
And if I might, the only thing that easement will do is restrict no construction of any sort. And obviously the CR will do that. So we'll simply not place that easement on record, advise DEP that we're putting a CR over the entire thing. And the CR obviously will control. So, and I'm happy to consult with town council on the details of any of that. I would expect that before we complete our CR, we'll be talking to town council in any event. But just so the board knows, the only thing that note is intended to do is to comply with DEP regulations regarding wastewater treatment plants. The wastewater treatment plant is approved. It is under construction over on the Sudbury side. And we'll simply put the CR over the top of the whole thing, and the CR will be the document that governs. And
Yeah.
obviously, it will preclude any construction.
Okay. I think that would be good, Bill, to follow up with town council and or NRC on the final wording of that. Again, it's a little bit unclear as it is stated today. It just simply says there's an easement for wastewater treatment plant, undefined, if you will, on the plan.
I understand the confusion, but
Yeah. I
again,
don't know what governs, if you will.
it's simply, the note is simply to show Mass DEP where we were going to prohibit construction. Clearly, we will prohibit construction within the entire CR area that includes that area. So I understand the confusion, but that's what that's all about.
Okay. So that will be clarified as we go forward in the process. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, the next question that was raised, an invasive species control plan. There's Japanese knotweed that's within loam, all over well, not all over, in places in the Concord parcel. There's also Japanese knotweed that we've discovered in the Sudbury parcel. We have been removing it by hand throughout the Sudbury parcel, and our practice will be the same for this piece, hand removal rather than using herbicides. I think that would be your preference, but I guess if Delia, if you'd rather have us use herbicides.
My experience with Japanese knotweed is that it is 15 feet deep as far as a root. So removing it by hand is not feasible. Who's this being, have you done this in other places and had it be successful?
We've just done that within the last 6 months, and it's a continuous process. We expect it to take more than 1 year, most likely a few years to fully eradicate the knotweed.
Right. So, Chris, I think more of my concern is that, most of this knotweed that we saw on the site visit is within areas that are going to be disturbed.
Okay.
Right. So you're going to have equipment that is going to be moving that around, and any little fragment that is going to resprout somewhere else.
Right.
So I think, I might suggest, and you should speak with your landscape consultant about this and your botanist and whoever else, but, that you do a cut stem approach, an injection, a targeted treatment with a herbicide application, and that all the, equipment is washed and cleaned so that you're not transporting it to other sites.
Right.
I
think it'll be easier for us, Delia, if it's in the areas where we are doing grading. Certainly we can take that soil and clean it or remove it and follow that practice. So I've been trying to stay away from herbicides. I'm not really a big fan of them, but
We're not either.
right. But if that's what you'd like us to do, I'll commit to doing that.
I would like you to do what is going to be effective at removing the knotweed and not sort of transferring it around to different sites. And
So-
I don't think hand removal is going to accomplish that.
Okay.
So
Okay.
would we be looking for at least a write-up on just
Yeah.
protocol in terms of how you're going to approach the knotweed, I think would be helpful.
Yeah.
I think gets everybody on board, gives guidance to the contractor or the landscape or, contractor,
Yeah.
site work contractor going forward. So a problem doesn't kind of exacerbate itself and become,
Right. No one wants that.
wider issue.
No one wants that stuff. It's
No.
it's seriously
Terrible
plain.
stuff.
Yeah.
Right, it really is. Okay, we'll draft something for you, and if you, it'd be nice if that could be a condition of tonight's vote.
That needs to be something that the commission reviews.
A knotweed removal plan.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would be, I think, again, just providing the appropriate protocol from some professional that's versed in that kind of invasive removal to give it the best chance to be successful.
Well, let me ask you a question. Delia, have you had one of these done on another property in Concord?
Knotweed removal?
Yes.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So is there a plan that's already been accepted by NRC that maybe we could adopt?
They all vary.
Yeah,
Right?
they
You know,
do. I
they're-
mean, it's basically looking to do a stem injection. So it's, and yours is going to also involve, I think, making sure that the equipment is cleaned before it's, moved between sites. And that actually we can condition. But as far as, a knotweed stem injection, I mean, I can find something that other people have prepared that you can, review with your landscape architect. If they don't have that experience.
Okay. I would have had her on this call, but she's on vacation this week. So I'm just, the reason I'm asking that question to the board is I was hoping that we could wrap this up tonight.
No, we're not in a position to wrap it up this evening.
You're not? Okay.
No.
All right.
Yeah, I think that as we're talking through these issues, Chris, these are the kind of we're getting there, but it's just a matter of kind of fleshing out the last issues and,
Right.
having the final plans put in order. So,
Okay, very good. Okay, so there's two other questions. One was electric service on the extension, and I think Delia wanted to know, what, or the board had requested additional information on that. And that's been a kind of an interesting process. We've been working with CMLP. CMLP has a regulation where any new line extensions need to be underground. So right now on Fitchburg Turnpike, there's the last transformer, which is almost at the town line. CMLP will bring the line down to the ground, and it'll be buried underneath Fitchburg Turnpike until it reaches the town line. At the town line, Sudbury's DPW and town engineer does not want the power line underneath their portion of the road.
yep, here we go.
So we're bringing we'll bring the power line up onto the poles, bring and extend that, a few hundred feet. I think it's 2 poles in Sudbury, and then it'll cross north across. They call it North. Sudbury calls Fitchburg Turnpike North Road. So they'll bring it across North Road and up through the cell tower access road. That portion of this where it's close to the cell tower is under the jurisdiction of the Sudbury Conservation Commission, and we have an RDA hearing with them on Monday. Lori Capone, who used to work for you, is their administrator, and she's done a site visit and inspected it. And we do not anticipate any issues with Sudbury Concom on that matter. And it's also our understanding that there are no impacts to NRC from your standpoint with this design.
Okay, and obviously, so Concord Power has no issues servicing their line on Sudbury property? I'm just
No.
curious. I just don't know.
No, there's no issues with that.
Okay.
At all. In fact, they'll also will include the broadband service with this extension. And this is costing us some money to bring it in because we have other electric service adjacent to 48 White today. But actually, CMLP's rates are about half of the cost than Eversource is. And so these homes will receive a significant benefit for buying power from CMLP. So we're pleased with that.
And if I might, Chris, I think in terms of the Natural Resources Commission's interest here, all of that work is outside of buffer zone and your jurisdiction. Some of it is within Sudbury's jurisdiction, which is why we've got the RDA over there.
Right.
So, Chris, can you stop sharing for 1 second,
Sure.
please? So here's the Concord Sudbury town line.
Right.
Here's the undergrounding section here, and somewhere there's a utility pole that's going to go in so that you can pop up for Sudbury's, and you're going to come down here, right?
Correct.
Okay, so here is the approximate stream location.
Yep.
That extends probably out to here. So this work that you're doing here, this is where it's going to be. This plan shows that you're just doing, it's minor work, you know, it's in the roadway right of way, but you're saw cutting, you're doing work within NRC jurisdiction. So, but there's, you know, you have the buffer zones and, you know, information shown on this side, you don't have it on here. I would be fine if you want to approximate those distances, but you've got wetlands on this side, you have the riverfront here. Those should be shown on here, and what work you're proposing to do within the town of Concord, within jurisdiction, should be shown on this plan.
So there's some sun's back. Oh God.
I'm sorry, if you could mute yourself, whoever is speaking at the moment.
Okay, Delia, so you would like us to add some lines to this drawing that you have on your screen, and we can do that. That's fine.
And it should just be updated to show, you know, you're putting in a utility pole, you're
You're doing a
above
trench cut.
grounds. Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
So
We can do
show
that.
what it is that you propose. It's minor stuff, but it should just be accurate to what's being requested.
And Chris, just to be clear for the commission, I don't believe you're proposing any new utility poles in Concord. I believe Concord Municipal Light is using their existing poles, and then they want you, and then they want you to go up and then over into Sudbury.
Okay, so it'd just be helpful to see that on the plan, just so it's clear.
We can add the lines. That's fine.
Yeah,
Sure.
lines and just detail the work you're going to do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. All right, let me share back the last comment. Okay, and then the last comment had to do, there was a back and forth about the outfall at the bioretention basin. And the engineering department within the town of Concord had, originally we didn't have an outfall pipe. They asked us to install an outfall pipe. There was a back and forth. They were then they were going to not require an outfall pipe, but now they're sticking with the outfall pipe. And there's some riprap in that area. And Concord Engineering has asked us to add some compost and native seed on top of the riprap, and we're okay with doing that. So I think that was the last comment that Delia had sent to us.
So that was actually, that composted riprap was actually a request that NRC had made. And this additional request was Gary Kleiman, a commissioner who is not able to be here tonight,
Okay.
had asked that in that area of disturbance where you go to put in that, you know, it's 5 feet on either side of the pipe. You're going to go in with a machine, you're going to take out whatever little, you know, vegetation is in there, and to restore it with something so that it is really robustly protected immediately from any, 100-year storm overflows that riprap area might experience. So it's just adding some plantings within that area of disturbance right around that new pipe and riprap.
Okay, that's fine. We can do that, Delia. That's
Okay,
not a
great.
problem.
Thank you.
Right. Yeah. All right, those are I think that was it that I'm aware of. I think all the other questions that we had transmitted responses to each one of the board or commission's questions, and we're available for any additional questions
Thank you, Chris. There's a couple other just minor comments, Delia. There was a partially provided tree protection detail.
That's my mistake.
You're good?
Yep.
Okay, in the SWIP, et cetera.
Condition.
That'll be conditioned.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. All right. So I think that's,
Mr. Chairman, can I raise an issue that's related to this, but not strictly speaking, I think part of your order of conditions, although it may be.
okay.
I think as the commission knows, we're over before the planning board and the ZBA for approval under the zoning bylaw for a planned residential development. The planning board made a recommendation, which we're agreeable to, obviously, to put this conservation restriction on, and we provided you with the plan, and I'll sort out that easement issue with town council as you suggested. The planning
I
board.
don't think that Ed was suggesting.
No, I think it was the easement, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll work that out.
Yeah.
That's
fine.
So the planning board's recommendation to the Board of Appeals, and it really hinged on natural resources, was that prior to the last certificate of occupancy, assuming ultimately a permit is granted over there, prior to the last certificate of occupancy, the conservation restriction be recorded. We had some discussion about this last night at the planning board, and I was encouraged to discuss it over here. I wouldn't say I was encouraged that I'd get what I wanted, but I was encouraged to raise the issue over here. And the issue is this. EEA's processes, plural, have become extraordinarily slow since the COVID pandemic. And now, as the commission may know, that many of the offices within EEA have gone to part-time in the office and remote working, and things have just continued to get slower and slower over there. I wanted to request the commission's consideration as we go through this for the CR to be submitted to the Commonwealth's Division of Conservation Restriction Review prior to that last CO rather than recorded. I have no issue. Chris has no issue with granting the CR. We have no issue with the CR being a condition of any of these approvals. My concern, and this is my concern, is that we could be hung up for heaven knows how long while the Commonwealth is reviewing the CR after it's been approved and signed off by the commission, your select board, and your town council. By way of example, I'll tell the commission I tried a case before DALA, the Division of Administrative Law Review Appeals over there in December of 2019. I don't have a decision yet from the presiding officer. Everything over there is just profoundly slow.
So I'll just jump in there,
Yep.
Bill. EEA with their conservation restriction program, they have been without a reviewer for close to a year. And I know they're searching for another reviewer. They've brought back other reviewers. We've got a number of conservation restrictions in front of them for review now. So I understand that it's a lengthier process than it normally is.
Yeah.
That being the case, I think that rather than waive that requirement that last C of O, that's the standard condition, that the CR is bound to be completed, executed, recorded before the last C of O is issued. If it has to be a temporary, if it has to be something, but we need something that we're going to make sure that this is continuing along a path that,
Of course.
so I'm not going to recommend to the commission that it is, it's just submitted to EEA, because I just don't want to be in a position where 10 years from now, it's still sitting in an EEA and nobody's followed up with it and we don't have any
It's lost
leverage
in
to
the-
sort of, right.
Yeah.
Precedent for us in other situations, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
If I could respond to that. And I understand perfectly what Delia just said. My problem is exactly the reverse. I don't want to have a CO hung up for 10 years while it's sitting on someone's desk. So I'm not suggesting a waiver.
Yeah,
at
It's
all.
not going to be 10 years.
Yeah.
It's not going to be 10 years.
That was-
So really the goal of
Could I please
putting
finish,
that condition in
Mr.
place,
Chairman?
Bill, is so that it sort of puts the applicants on notice that you really should be starting the conservation restriction process when you get your permit. So not to leave it until you've got your first C of O and,
Right.
and then you're waiting, your sixth or,
Then
so
start the process.
start it when you get your permit.
Mr. Chairman, could I
Yeah.
just please get through this? I keep getting interrupted and I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I want to get my thoughts out. I'm not suggesting any waiver. I'm not suggesting any unusual consideration. I'm aware that this is the standard condition. Elizabeth Hughes was very clear about that during our hearing the other night. I would just like the opportunity to explore it, and I wanted to raise it with the board so that you're aware of this. This, again, is a matter that I'm happy to go through with town council. I've got considerable experience
It's
with
not a matter
CRs.
for town
Yeah.
council.
Yeah, I wouldn't think it is.
It's a matter for the board.
So Bill, let me just ask,
Involved in these.
if, what is the construction process over there anyway, timeframe wise? To build the houses, sell the houses, assuming you get permitted, et cetera. I mean, is it a year? Is it 9 months? Is it 15 months?
That's probably better directed to Chris. Chris, you want to respond to that?
It's a crystal ball. I mean, you asked me a year and a half ago, I'd say we could probably sell them and build them all within, a year and a half. Things have slowed down with interest rates, more than doubling. So I think, that will affect our schedule. In any event, I would say that we should be in and out of there within, from start to finish, 3 years. I hope it's 2 years. So,
Yeah, so I just asked that simple question that if you were to, if you will, expedite that process, it looks like there's at least a reasonable runway that you might get it before your last CO, or maybe it's delayed a little bit, but you've got some time there.
Well, I'll tell you what, Mr. Chairman, I will commit to this. The commission and the Board of Appeals takes a vote and that CR is a condition of approval. You'll see a draft out of me headed over to Delia within 2 weeks' time. I mean, we'll get that going right away. I appreciate the commission's concern, and I think we're all sort of speaking the same language. The commission's judgment is we probably ought to be fine. I guess we'll see, and maybe I don't know. I guess I'm hearing the board loud and clear. I'm hearing your administrator loud and clear. I suppose if we really get jammed up, maybe we come back for some amendment to the condition or something like that. I guess.
Sure. We're always open for a discussion if things were to change for the worse, perhaps. But at this point, we'll hold the course and just suggest that you expedite as early as you can.
We'll get that done. I mean, please remember that Delia told us all that EEA doesn't even have a reviewer at the present time. So
Duly noted.
And
got it wrong.
And they
Okay.
brought back an old reviewer, so they're not down. I mean, they are slow. I will give you that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But,
Okay, I don't want to take
Thank you.
that's not a continuing condition.
I appreciate the discussion. I don't want to take any more time with that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bill. All right. If that concludes the update and presentation for this evening, I just want to go out to the public to see if there are any public comments regarding this application.
We have Jeff Parker.
Okay, Jeff?
Hi, I just want to thank you guys for taking the time for a site walk. And I want to thank Mr. Clausen and Bill for flagging the trees that are going to be cut. Mr. Clausen, would you be so kind as to put that map back up to show the trees being cut? Can you put that screen on of the map of the trees being cut?
I'm trying to do that right now for you.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
No, let's see if, there you go.
Okay, thank you. So what I noticed was every single tree on this north ridge is to be removed. Every single one. Any tree near the top or on the top is going to be removed. These two houses right here will be exposed to the rookery and the wetlands. These are the only homes in this whole 130-acre wetland tract that will be seen from the wetlands and the trails. I don't see how the rookery is going to reestablish, if these homes from the base to the top are totally exposed to this wetland area.
If I may respond to that, Mr. Parker, I think your description is not accurate.
You're the ones who flagged them, not me. They're all flagged. Every single tree up there is flagged.
Your description is not accurate. This only shows the trees within the limit of work that are going to be removed. There's many, 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 many trees beyond the limit of work that are not being touched at all. And we have depicted that and shown that to the planning board through cross sections. We had the surveyors out on property and surveyed the tree heights for the trees that are remaining. That is part of the submittal of the cross sections that's been submitted to the planning board.
Well, I mean, I was out there, every single tree on top of the ridge is to be removed. And they're flagged. You can't debate this.
Your description is inaccurate.
Yeah.
I'm going to suggest that Chris, you put up that section 3-3, which is the northern ridge.
Well,
So-
let me ask another question, Delia. Is this a part of the NRC's review process? Views?
Well, tree removal within jurisdiction is part of the NRC's process. Aesthetics and visuals is not, but potential effects to wetland resource areas
I
is.
think Mr. Parker is talking about visual matters here.
No, I'm talking about the effect on the wetlands, on the animals, the herons. I'm talking about that. How this is going to affect the wetlands. If these houses are in plain view of the rookery, how is the rookery ever going to reestablish?
Well, the plain view is out of our jurisdiction, Jeff. That's not our jurisdiction. I would also note again, just on our site walk, as we walked that ridge, we did see the trees flagged that were coming down, but I would have to say that it was not my impression. It seemed like the majority of the trees were going to be staying, and there were certain trees
you were
flagged.
down here looking. You were looking down here. You were not looking over here. You were down here looking. Every tree on this part of the ridge is to be removed.
Unless they were misflagged, which I don't believe they were necessarily, but again, it wasn't the commission's impression on the site walk that any of those areas are going to be wholesale cut down with open vistas.
So, Chris, if you want to close that screen, I'm gonna.
But again, we should talk about the trees in jurisdiction and not necessarily about views and vistas, as that is not in our jurisdiction.
Okay, let me just close up because I was sure you guys did not see this section of trees because I knew they wouldn't take you over there. They probably showed you this side.
We watched
They didn't want it on the walk because they know we know where everything is.
We walked the ridge and we walked down to the point where that duplex was at, and we walked the back corners and to see how far they were from those closest trees being cut down. We talked about the depth of that yard, which is not overly generous, but so we tried to take a fair amount of time out there to understand the backyards and the trees that were coming down at or along the ridge.
Okay, I appreciate it. Now, the other thing is that picture below there.
Jeff, if you could, Delia's pulled up this plan just to touch on it.
So this is a section through the plan view, right? So this is the duplex here.
Yeah.
And then if you go down here to this plan, this is what that green line shows in a section view. So these are the trees that remain with these houses being constructed. And so what this is demonstrating is that these remaining trees, the trees that will remain after the work is done are going to screen these houses from the wetland here.
Yeah, I don't think that's accurate. I really don't.
In addition, Mr. Chairman, this cross-section does not show the additional plantings that we're in our landscape plan. This just shows the trees that are beyond the limit of work and the cross-section through where the houses would be.
Okay, at the current time, I can see the ridge where the houses are from the Rookery overlook. And when you remove some of those trees, more trees, I think you have total of 76 trees, but probably only 30 from that ridge. When you remove those trees, you're going to be looking right at those houses. I mean, that's clear. But whatever, that's my point of view, and I don't want to take your time, but that's
But
it.
we appreciate your comment, and perhaps, as noted, perhaps best directed at planning board or ZBA in terms of the views and the vistas and that concern.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for the comment.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yep, there is, let's see, I see another hand raised, Nick Johnson.
Hi, Nick, if you want to unmute.
Yes, hi, Nick Johnson, 38 Bolton Street. I applaud, I would like to thank the board for considering the Article 31 that was mentioned in the planning board's meeting last night, it being trying to be removed. I do agree that there will be time in order for them to go through the hearing.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I don't want to interrupt. At no time have we ever suggested that condition 31, which is the conservation restriction, be removed. We proposed it. We're in complete agreement with it. I had a process issue. I understand the board's view on it. That is a misstatement. I just can't let that one go and get into the record. Excuse me.
Thank you for the clarification, Bill.
I believe that article is very important, is the point of my comment.
Yeah.
Second comment that I would like to make is there seems to still be a discrepancy as to what the NRC saw as to what compared to what the citizens in the surrounding area are seeing. I'd like to understand what is the board's position on this discrepancy? And have you received any communications that there is concern continuing over the cutting down of those trees?
I think the only, we didn't see any necessary discrepancies when we did the site walk. And I think the only thing that I think was clarified this evening was the 54 trees versus the 58 versus the 34 trees, which has again been clarified as in jurisdiction versus out of jurisdiction. And I think Chris Clausen and Bill touched on that earlier.
And last question I have for the applicant is, what is the reason for the removal of the trees that are within the jurisdiction area? What is the purpose?
There's, this property was a mine, a gravel mine for over 30 years. And if you, sounds like you've been on the property, you'll be able to, the topography is all over the place. So we have areas where it's been mined, which need to be filled. We have areas that are uneven, which need to be regraded. So the area, most of the trees that will be removed are in areas where we have to grade. We're creating a bioretention basin as part of the overall stormwater management plan, which is a good low impact design concept. So we'll be grading over there, and there's some trees that will be removed. That's the reasons. Matt, did I say that right?
Yeah, you said that right. So in a nutshell, those, fairly minimal, amount of trees will need to be removed to facilitate the grading in order to restore the site for the greater good.
Right. Matt, can you just name and address for the record?
I'm sorry. Yes, Matt Leidner, Civil Design Group, 21 High Street, North Andover, Massachusetts.
Thank you.
I'm sorry about that.
Not at all.
So, Mr. Johnson, I hope that answers your question.
It does, Mr. Clausen. Trees are really important to us. And, you mentioned the hurricane recently. It deforested the entire state of Florida. And I'm sure a lot of people are missing those trees as well.
Yep,
Please be considerate to our environment because it is a selling point for these houses. Okay.
We agree.
Please do not remove these trees if you can avoid it. I understand that there's gradient removal, but you do not understand the bigger picture here. Okay. We're talking about the environment and we're talking about our water. All right. And we just received a notice from our town that there was a heavy amount of bromate in another source of our drinking water. Okay. So you're right next to wetlands where we eventually will tap that water. Okay. People will drink from that area. And so you're removing things that help that area.
We're
So
also,
I want you to think about that.
we're
That's all.
very conscious of that, Mr. Johnson. And if you study our landscape plan, you'll be able to see the quantity and quality of plant material that we are incorporated into our plan. In addition, we realize we will be creating new habitat for not only small mammals, but for pollinators. And we are very conscious of that. We're aware, and we think we are doing a good job of creating habitat out of a barren gravel pit. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I don't see any.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. So would you, a couple cleanups on the plans,
Yep.
some protocol on invasives, et cetera.
Right.
Next hearing is November 2nd. So in order to kind of get on that hearing, any plan of revisions would have to be in this Friday at
10:21
10:21.
next Friday.
Oh, next Friday.
We do have a question.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Question.
Oh, okay.
So 10:21, we need to.
Yeah, 10:21, the plan of revisions would have to be in.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, wait, Chris, we
Yeah,
do have
there's
one last question.
Oh,
that
sure.
popped up.
Okay, very good.
So we have a hand raised.
Yes, hi. This is Stephanie White Bateman. I received the invitation to this meeting a little late, so I apologize for having joined late. But this is regarding an elm tree that needs to be taken down at 477 Lowell Road.
Hey, Stephanie, I just going to pause you there. That's not part of this discussion. This is a different application, so.
And that's going to be on the November 2nd NRC agenda.
Okay.
So I had sent you an email, Stephanie, that
I did see your email, but I also then, after I saw your email, saw an invitation to this meeting about the elm. So I apologize if there's been some confusion.
That's okay.
So November 2nd would be the date.
Okay, well then I
Look forward
will
to seeing
see
you
you
then.
then.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
Great.
thank you, Stephanie. All right, sorry about that, Chris. I think you good for shooting for the 21st?
Yes, sir. We'll get to work and resubmit by the 21st, and then you said November 2nd is the next hearing. So
Correct.
we look forward to hopefully wrapping this up on the 2nd. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Have a
Good
good
evening.
You too. Bye-bye.
Night.
Night.
All right, we're moving on to new applications this evening. We have 160 Adams Road and NOI filing number 137-1615. And I think, Beth, good evening.
I'm Beth.
Grab a seat if you'd like.
My husband, Fred Fellows.
Hi, Fred. Do you want to come up or
Whatever.
Sure, come on.
come on up?
But we're going to leave this presentation to Joe Rogers from GZA, who's our
All right.
engineer on this and has all the surveying and engineering and can explain it better than I ever could.
Great.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Thanks. Yeah, my name is Joe Rogers. I'm with GZA Geo Environmental. I'm here to represent Beth for her proposal at 160 Adams Road. So Beth has a horse farm on this property. It's been in business for a while. The property is about 8.5 acres, and it does border on the Assabet River. So Basically, in a nutshell, the project is Beth would like to expand the existing stables that she has on the property, along with the interior riding ring that's part of that.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but would you like me to share a screen or did you want to do that to show the plan?
I could do either way.
Okay, I'm going to put it up if you would rather do it yourself.
Oh, no, that's perfect. So yeah, this one would be great. And then we could switch to the one right after it. This is the area in question. The existing barn outline is shown kind of without color. And then in that pinkish color is the addition that is being proposed as part of the application. So on this plan, you'll see the Assabet River is off to the right. It's a little over 300 feet away from the project area. So there's no riverfront at this location. And then off to the left is a kind of a bordering vegetated wetland. And those lines show the buffer zone projected from the flags that were placed on the site. So it is outside of the jurisdiction from riverfront area and as well as buffer zone, but it is almost entirely the majority of the property is within bordering land subject to flooding. And so the barn itself currently sits just above the floodplain elevation on this property. And what we've done is try to accommodate the addition of the stables in the barn and consolidate some of the structures on the site and get it as much as possible onto the portion of the property that is outside of bordering land subject to flooding. So that darker, heavier dashed line is the surveyed limits of the BLSF. And so you can see that it kind of comes in and out of the outline of the proposed addition. So essentially, the notice of intent tonight is to address the incursion into BLSF and in order to show the calculations for compensation for that for that work that's proposed. We've addressed it on the next page of this plan set, where I've color coded things a little bit to make it a little bit clearer. And so here, what I've done is in that pinkish color, I'm showing the area of the limits of within the limits of work where the building or grading necessary to support entrances into the building would need to happen within the current floodplain. And in order to compensate for that work, we're showing the removal of these accessory structures. Essentially, these structures that are within the floodplain would be removed from the floodplain, as well as a small amount of regrading of some topography in order to deal with kind of just to smooth out some topography. And so what we've come up with is an overall, off to the right, a table showing the different elevations that are present. Most of the work is in this fringe area of the BLSF. So between the elevation 121 and 121.8, 121.8 is the limits of the floodplain in this area. So most of the work that is being proposed is just within that upper foot, right on the edge. And so that's our fill is about 9 cubic yards. And then by removing the 3 structures and doing the grading work, we're going to provide a compensation of about 25.5 cubic yards. So by doing that, we far exceed the 1-to-1 requirement for WPA for work in BLSF. And we're also going to exceed the town's bylaw for the 1.5 to 1 ratio.
And Delia, you note that CPW is looking at
cuts right now.
the
Yep.
cuts and the calculation of the compensatory storage. Okay, so that's outstanding at the moment.
Yep.
All right. Joe, anything else to add? Are you good for the moment?
Yeah, no, it's pretty,
Yep.
pretty simple.
Okay. I think there was, so the question about trees, the number of trees that are it's unclear, are these all being removed or some of these going to stay and be protected or that kind of.
There are no trees within buffer zone or riverfront that would be removed as part of the project.
Right, so even understanding that these are outside jurisdiction, what's the plan for these trees?
Disposition of those
Well,
trees.
there's actually just a few pine trees
Yeah.
that are actually encroaching on the riding ring. So we've had to trim them. They just haven't been taken care of in years. So
Yeah.
we're just going to have to take them down because they're really old. They're pretty much gone. And then they were just, they were out of control and they were failing kind of. I think there's
So these three
a
here,
little wall of the pine trees
yeah,
that's between so it's basically where the new indoor arena extension will connect to the outdoor arena. And we're also trying to make the drainage there work and just gravel it. There's, it's kind of just a dirt pile. So we're just trying to make it better, improve our little facility there.
Okay.
What's going to happen to the accessory structures? Are you actually taking them down or are you moving them someplace or?
Actually, I think one of them might be worth saving, and I don't know what we'll do with it in the future. It's smaller than we would want to put horses in. There's sheds. There's sheds that the Kazmeyers kind of popped in there haphazardly. So we've only owned this since March, and we just moved in July.
I have
Just to
visited
say.
this a long time ago.
Okay, so the Kazmeyers had it for 50 years.
Right, exactly. That's right.
Right. And so gradually, for more stalls, Kristen would just drop these double shed units.
Right.
The first one that she did was on a cement pad in the flood zone. So that'll be all removed and cleaned up. I think we're trying to lessen the impact and provide better housing for our animals.
Sure.
They're crappy sheds. They're pretty rotted. So they're pretty gone. They're pretty much going to be gone.
Okay.
Two of them are completely gone.
Okay.
Okay, good.
Again, if they were relocated or try to save one, again, it's just where you're going to put that because there's a limited area in terms
Right.
of,
Yes.
out of the flood area.
We do have some area that's not in flood zone. So
Yes, you do.
We have some areas we could maybe use them, make them, one of them could be useful. We haven't made a decision about it.
We did note in the notice of intent that they would at very least be removed from jurisdictional areas.
Yes.
right. And we just noted that there's just very little room to do them, to relocate.
Yeah,
Right.
that's all.
So we
Right.
just want some sort of level of comfort that where they get relocated, they're not going to be.
Our goal is to get rid of them.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And then I think that was, and again, I think just the question to be raised was whether a permit has been filed with the ZBA in regard to filling
And
the
the reason that
floodplain.
I haven't done that is that the building department, before Ray retired, he told me you may not need to go to the ZBA, so don't do that. He said, don't do that because Delia told me I should do both applications at once.
Right.
So I went and decided to do both applications. Ray said, don't do that. Give us some building plans because I don't think this is going to relate to the ZBA or could possibly not relate. So I'm waiting for the building plans, which are getting done now.
I see.
But this plan is enough to say that it needs to be filed with ZBA. You don't need any further building plans. This footprint.
I
is
showed him
within-
that. Okay, but okay.
So Ray has
I'll move
retired.
it forward then.
Yeah, I would talk to Paul
Okay.
Frieden.
Okay.
Because it's just a
Sure.
trigger for us where it's within our jurisdiction. It's a little bit of a redundant process where, the floodplain conservancy district is the same thing as the 100-year elevation for the floodplain.
Yeah.
So Wetlands Protection Act requires approval. That's NRC, but the zoning bylaw also requires it.
Okay.
So, when we see that it's in the floodplain, that's enough to take to Paul. And he
Okay.
will tell you
And he'll
that,
tell you.
file
Okay.
with.
So we'll get that
Right.
rolling.
And we don't
Might as
we don't close permits that haven't been at least looked at by ZBA in case there's changes to the footprint.
Uh,
So, even if everything,
So ZBA is going to want building plans though.
No.
It's
That's all they want. Footprint.
it's
Okay.
really about the floodplain for ZBA
Correct.
in this
Oh, I see.
context,
Yeah.
Okay.
right?
It's not going to be 3 feet tall, so they're
Okay.
going to know it's all in the floodplain.
Okay.
Yep.
So at this juncture, then, I think most of the questions were answered, other
Yep.
than CPW's review.
Yep.
And even with that coming down, to your point, we'll wait on the ZBA in terms of an
Right.
application process and feedback from the ZBA.
So usually they'll look for, we just want them, so this will go first to planning board because they will make a recommendation. I think that's right, for floodplain. I think that's right. We'll want either planning board somebody to take a look at it to make sure they don't have any recommendations for any footprint changes, which I don't think. And this makes a lot of sense. It's pretty straightforward, but it's not in your interest to close the NRC hearing, because if there were any changes and then you have to amend, it's a process to do that.
Another
So,
application.
Yeah,
if
so
you will.
keep it open. And, we'll issue before the ZBA does, but we just want to make sure that any changes are addressed.
All right, so if there were no changes,
We'll just
we don't need to
continue.
come back
Right.
to another meeting.
Right.
Right.
So the
Okay.
only thing that we need, so John Hamill was going to get me a plan showing the spot
He
elevations.
still need that. He was good. He just didn't have a chance.
I don't think he's had a chance to do that yet.
Right.
So I just need that. CPW is going to want that as well. I'll share it with them. That's going to help them with their floodplain review. They review the floodplain counts both for NRC under the Wetlands Protection Act, as well as ZBA under their bylaw. They're slightly different, analysis, but we make it work.
Okay.
We'll help you get there. So
We're all looking at the same.
we're all looking at the
Yeah.
same drawing.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the intent. Yeah,
And I don't think it's pretty straightforward.
it is. So we'll continue this and we'll just see what the timing is, i.e. planning, zoning.
Right, right. So I would call Paul tomorrow.
Yeah, and I had gone to zoning, but it was before we really had the final plan.
Okay.
So they didn't know what.
Right.
So I'll just, okay.
Yeah.
So Joe and I will figure that.
Perfect.
Okay, so you're good to continue and then we'll just see how it unfolds with the other
Sounds
boards.
good.
So I would just continue to the November 2nd meeting. And it may be that it continues at another meeting until you've got stuff in front of the ZBA.
And then when the,
No need to attend until, until it's, getting towards the end.
Right.
okay, great. Okay, thank you.
Thanks very
All
much.
right, very good.
Have a good evening.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
All right. COCs. We've got-
COCs, okay, 158 Laurel Street is for a tear down and rebuild. That is all set.
Mhm.
Musterfield, 55 Musterfield was for an addition. That is all set, and 79 Comerford also an addition. And all three are good to go.
Good.
Bill, you wanna?
Sure.
Make
I
motion on
move
that?
that we issue certificates of compliance for 158 Laurel Street, DEP file 1371575. Number 2, for 55 Musterfield Road, DEP file 1371500. And 79 Comerford Road, DEP file 1371394.
Second,
Thank you, Nick. And the vote,
Aye.
Nick?
aye.
And I am an I as well. Thank you all. And I think with that, we are adjourned.